Martha Sullivan, 72 years old, widowed for 5 years, lived alone in a small apartment in the suburbs of Boston. After her 15-year-old Buick began to show recurring problems, she decided it was time to buy a new, safer, and more reliable car. She had saved for years for this moment. Autumn in Massachusetts was beginning to paint the trees red and gold when Martha, dressed in her beige wool coat and comfortable shoes, entered Luxury Motors, a gleaming dealership in the wealthier part of town. The glass and metal building reflected the afternoon sunlight, while American flags fluttered gently with the October breeze. "Good morning, dear." Martha greeted the receptionist with her gentle smile. "I'd like to see some sedan models, please." The young receptionist, with perfectly arranged hair and impeccable nails, looked her up and down, noticing her simple clothes and worn purse. "Is someone waiting for you? Perhaps your son or daughter?" asked the receptionist, assuming that an elderly lady like her wouldn't be there to make a purchase. "No, I'm alone. I came to see the new cars," Martha replied, adjusting her gold-framed glasses. After 20 minutes of waiting, while other customers were promptly attended to, the sales manager, Brad Thompson, finally approached. Tall, with gray hair at the temples and an impeccable navy blue suit, he asked in a condescending tone, "How can I help you, ma'am? Are you waiting for someone?" "I'm interested in buying a new sedan," Martha responded, trying to maintain her composure. "And I have a budget of up to $40,000. Brad exchanged glances with another salesman. "Mrs. Sullivan, right? Our vehicles start at $45,000. Perhaps you should try the Toyota dealership on Main Avenue. They have more affordable options. But I saw on the website that you have the Lexus ES model starting at $38,000. Martha insisted, pulling her tablet from her purse and showing him the page. Her hand trembled slightly. Brad's expression hardened. "That's a basic model we don't have in stock. And frankly, ma'am, I don't think it would be a good idea for someone of your age. It's a sophisticated car with a lot of technology." Martha felt her face burn. Around her, younger customers examined luxury cars while salespeople treated them with deference. A family with noisy children received refreshments and cookies. "I can perfectly learn to use any technology," Martha replied, her voice firm despite the growing humiliation. Brad sighed audibly. "Ma'am, we have serious customers waiting. If you want, you can leave your phone number, and if something within your budget appears, we can contact you." "I want to speak to your supervisor," Martha asked, feeling diminished but determined. "I am the sales manager, ma'am, and I'm telling you we have nothing for you here. Maybe it's better for you to leave." At that moment, a younger saleswoman approached Brad and whispered something in his ear. He chuckled, and Martha managed to hear the words, "wasting time." With tears in her eyes that she refused to shed, Martha put her tablet back in her purse. "I understand," her voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for your time." As she walked to the exit, she heard muffled laughter. Outside, the cold autumn wind dried the tears that finally fell down her wrinkled cheeks. Martha paused a moment to regain her composure before calling an Uber. Watching the golden leaves swirling in the parking lot filled with luxury cars she would never be allowed to touch. Michael Sullivan stared at the computer screen in his panoramic office on the 42nd floor of a Manhattan skyscraper. At 45, he was the CEO of Sullivan Tech, one of the fastest-growing digital security companies in the United States. His tailored Italian suit and Patek Philippe watch confirmed the success he had built from scratch. The secretary knocked on the frosted glass door. "Mr. Sullivan, your mother is online too. It's the third time she's called today." Michael sighed, running his hand through his meticulously cut brown hair. His connections with Martha had become sporadic in recent years, not for lack of love but due to the relentless pace of his professional life. and the weight of unspoken expectations between mother and son. "Thank you, Diane. I'll take it." He picked up the phone. "Mom?" "Michael, dear." Martha's voice sounded distant and fragile. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "I'm always busy, Mom." "What's wrong?" A momentary silence. "Nothing serious. I just wanted to hear your voice. How are things in New York?" "The usual. Meetings, contracts, problems to solve." Michael looked at the Manhattan skyline through the glass window. "How's Boston? Is the apartment okay?" "Everything's fine here. The leaves are starting to fall. You know how beautiful autumn is in Massachusetts." Martha paused. "I've been thinking about changing cars." "Is the Buick giving problems again?" "Yes, and I thought it was time for something newer and safer." Michael checked his Rolex. "Seems sensible. Need help with that?" Another pause. "Actually, I went to a dealership today, but it didn't go so well." Something in her tone made Michael stop. "What happened?" "It's nothing, dear. Just, they weren't very friendly. I don't think they took me seriously." Her voice trembled slightly. Michael felt a pang of guilt. How long had it been since he visited his mother? 6 months? A year? "Which dealership, Mom?" "It doesn't matter, Michael. I'll try somewhere else. I just wanted to talk a little." "Mom, which dealership?" His voice took on the firm tone he used in board meetings. "Luxury Motors, on Beacon Street. But please, don't do anything. I don't want to cause problems." Michael felt anger growing as he imagined his mother, the woman who had worked 2 jobs to raise him alone after his father's premature death, who had saved every penny to send her son to university, being humiliated. "I need to hang up, Mom. I have a teleconference in 5 minutes," he lied. "I'll call you tomorrow, okay?" "Of course, dear. I love you." "I love you too, Mom." Michael hung up and immediately pressed the intercom. "Diane, cancel my appointments for tomorrow and the day after, and ask Jake to prepare the private jet. I'm going to Boston tonight." He opened his laptop and typed "Luxury Motors Boston." In seconds, he had the dealership's phone number and the owner's name. Then, he opened his contact list and called his Ferrari dealer in New York. "Gerald, Michael Sullivan. I need the Ferrari F8 I reserved to be delivered to Boston tomorrow morning." "Yes, the red one. And I need a special favor." As the sun set over Manhattan, Michael looked out the window, thinking about the sacrifices his mother had made for him. How had he allowed success to distance him so much from her? The feeling of shame, mixed with determination, fueled his plans for the next day. Michael's private jet landed at Logan Airport in Boston at 11:15 p.m. As his driver took him to the Four Seasons Hotel, he reflected on how he had drifted from his roots. Boston was his hometown, but now it seemed like a distant, almost foreign place. In the luxurious hotel room, Michael couldn't sleep. The image of his mother being humiliated wouldn't leave his mind. Martha Sullivan was the definition of dignity. A retired elementary school teacher who never complained, even when life was hard, who had raised a stubborn son alone after becoming a widow at 35. Michael grabbed his phone and called Jake Feach, his personal assistant. "Hey, Tooth, has the car arrived in Boston?" he asked without preamble. "Yes, sir. The red Ferrari F8 is already at the carrier's depot, as requested, and the other item has also been arranged." "Perfect. I want the car delivered to the address I sent at 9:30 a.m. sharp." "Everything's already arranged, Mr. Sullivan. Is there anything else you need?" Michael thought for a moment. "Yes. Find out everything about Brad Thompson, sales manager at Luxury Motors. I want his complete background in my inbox before breakfast." After hanging up, Michael opened his laptop and researched the dealership. Luxury Motors was part of a regional network belonging to Peterson Automotive Group, a medium-sized family business with 8 dealerships in the northeastern U.S. Richard Peterson, the CEO, had a reputation for being a ruthless but fair businessman. At 6:30 a.m., the dossier on Brad Thompson arrived in Michael's email. At 52, Thompson had worked at Luxury Motors for 15 years. Divorced twice, he had a son in college and a substantial mortgage. His sales record was impressive, but there were some customer complaints about preferential treatment and sexist comments. Nothing that had resulted in serious disciplinary actions. Michael showered, put on a charcoal gray Italian suit with a red tie, and went downstairs for breakfast. While eating, he called his mother. "Good morning, Mom. How are you feeling today?" "Michael, what a pleasant surprise. I'm fine, dear. Just a little tired. Listen, I'm in Boston on business. How about we have lunch together today? I can come by around noon." "You're in Boston?" The surprise and joy in her voice were palpable. "But of course we can have lunch. I'll prepare something special. You don't need to cook, Mom. We'll go to a restaurant. And before that, could you do me a favor? I need you to go to Luxury Motors this morning and talk to that sales manager again." A silence. "Michael, what are you planning?" "Trust me, Mom. I just want you to go there, as if nothing had happened, and ask to speak with Brad Thompson again. Say you've reconsidered and want to see that Lexus." "I don't know, son. It was quite humiliating." "Please, Mom. It's important. I promise it will be worth it." After more persuasion, Martha agreed. Michael finalized the details of his plan, and at 9:15, he entered a taxi heading to Luxury Motors. The dealership had just opened when he arrived. He strategically positioned himself in a cafe across the street, from where he could observe the main entrance. At 9:30 sharp, he saw the transport truck arrive with his gleaming red Ferrari F8, valued at over $300,000. As instructed, the driver parked the vehicle right in front of the dealership, partially blocking the view of the showroom windows. Michael smiled as he saw salespeople and customers approaching the windows to admire the Italian supercar. At 9:45, Martha arrived in an Uber. Michael observed his mother, so small and fragile from a distance, straightening her posture before entering the dealership. His heart tightened. When was the last time he had really looked at her? It was time to teach a lesson about respect. Inside Luxury Motors, the atmosphere was one of excitement. The red Ferrari parked in front of the dealership attracted all eyes. Salespeople speculated about who the owner might be, while the few morning customers tried to disguise their interest. Brad Thompson was adjusting his tie when he saw Martha Sullivan coming through the main door. His rehearsed smile faltered for a moment. The receptionist quickly approached. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Martha took a deep breath. "Yes, I'd like to speak with Mr. Thompson again. About the Lexus ES." Brad hesitated, but approached with a tense smile. "Mrs. Sullivan, right? I thought we had clarified everything yesterday." "Yes, but I've reconsidered," Martha replied, maintaining her dignity. "Perhaps we can check if you can order the model?" Brad sighed. "Ma'am, as I explained yesterday, I think our vehicles are not suitable for your needs. Why don't you try?" At that moment, the dealership doors opened, and Michael entered, impeccably dressed, carrying an Italian leather briefcase and displaying a watch that cost more than Brad's annual salary. His presence immediately changed the atmosphere of the place. "Mr. Thompson," Michael called, his confident voice echoing through the showroom. "I'm Michael Sullivan, CEO of Sullivan Tech." Brad quickly abandoned Martha and advanced with his hand extended. "Mr. Sullivan, what an unexpected honor. How can I help you?" Michael ignored the extended hand and walked directly to Martha. "Hello, Mom," he said, kissing her on the cheek. Brad's face visibly paled, his eyes moving frantically between Michael and Martha. "Mom," Brad stammered. "This lady is your—" "Yes, this is Martha Sullivan, my mother." The woman you and your team humiliated yesterday. Michael's voice was calm but loaded with authority. By the way, that Ferrari F8 outside, it's mine. I just bought it in New York, but I was thinking of acquiring something more suitable for driving when I visit my mother in Boston. The sales manager began to sweat. Mr. Sullivan, there must be some misunderstanding. I'm sure we gave your mother our best attention. Martha remained silent, watching the scene unfold. Interesting, Michael replied, because my mother told me something different. And you know what's even more interesting? He made a dramatic pause. I recorded our entire phone conversation. Massachusetts is a two-party consent state for recordings, but I'm sure you know that. Brad paled even more. Other dealership employees and some customers were now watching the scene. Mr. Sullivan, can we talk privately in my office? I don't see why, Michael replied, slightly raising his voice. You had no problems publicly humiliating my mother. Why should we discuss this in private? At that moment, an older man with gray hair and a well-cut suit quickly approached. What's happening here, Brad? Mr. Peterson, Brad stammered. This is Michael Sullivan and his mother. We were just Richard Peterson. The older man introduced himself, extending his hand to Michael. I'm the owner of Luxury Motors. It seems we have a problem here. Michael shook his hand firmly. Yes, we do. Your dealership treated my mother deplorably yesterday. She came to buy a car in cash, within the budget advertised on your own website, and was practically thrown out because she didn't look like the type of customer you're looking for. Peterson turned to Martha. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm sorry for any inconvenience. I'd like to hear exactly what happened, in your own words. Martha, regaining her composure, reported the previous day's incident in precise detail. As she spoke, Peterson's face became increasingly grave. When she finished, Peterson turned to Brad. Is this true? Brad began to formulate excuses, but Peterson interrupted him. Go to my office and wait there. Turning back to Michael and Martha, he said, Mrs. Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan, I sincerely apologize. This is not the kind of service we offer, nor the kind of behavior we tolerate. I'd like to resolve this personally. Michael observed his mother. For the first time in a long time, he saw the strength he had always admired in her, the dignity that no humiliation could completely erase. Mr. Peterson, Martha finally said, speaking up, I didn't come here to cause problems for anyone. I just wanted to be treated with respect. Richard Peterson invited Martha and Michael to his private office at the back of the dealership. The room was elegant, with photographs of classic cars on the walls and a large window overlooking the workshop. Mrs. Sullivan, I apologize again for the treatment you received, Peterson began, serving them coffee in porcelain cups. Luxury Motors has been a family business for 3 generations. My grandfather started selling used Ford T's in 1935 and always taught us that every customer deserves respect, regardless of their appearance or budget. Michael maintained his neutral expression, evaluating Peterson's sincerity. Brad Thompson has been a productive salesman, but this is not the first complaint about his behavior. It will be his last day at Luxury Motors. Peterson looked directly at Martha. As for the car you came looking for, I'd like to offer you the Lexus ES you mentioned with a substantial discount, as a form of compensation. Martha looked at her son, then at Peterson. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Peterson, but I don't want special treatment because of my son. If Mr. Thompson treats other elderly people the way he treated me, how many don't have a CEO's son to defend them? The comment hit Michael like a punch in the stomach. His mother was right. He was only there because he had power and influence. How many other Marthas suffered daily without having someone to defend them? Peterson reflected for a moment. You're absolutely right. What do you suggest, then? Martha adjusted herself in the chair. I suggest you implement a training program on how to treat elderly customers, and perhaps a specific policy against age discrimination. Michael observed his mother with growing admiration. She wasn't there for revenge or personal compensation, but to correct a larger problem. Excellent suggestion, Peterson replied. In fact, we could expand this to all our dealerships. Mrs. Sullivan, you were a teacher, correct? Yes, for 40 years. Would you like to help us develop this training? As a paid consultant, of course. Martha smiled for the first time since entering the dealership. That would be interesting. After finalizing the details, Peterson personally accompanied Martha through the showroom, showing her the various models available, including the Lexus ES she had originally sought. Michael followed them, observing how his mother asked insightful questions about fuel economy and safety features. While Martha tested the navigation system of a sedan, Peterson approached Michael. "Your father would be proud," he said quietly. Michael looked at him surprised. "Oh, you knew my father?" Peterson smiled. "John Sullivan. Of course I did. He bought his first car from me in 1975. A metallic blue Plymouth Duster. He paid in religious installments, never late by a penny." Peterson paused. "When he passed away, your mother came to pay the last installment personally, even while in mourning. Said it was what John would have wanted." Michael felt a lump in his throat. This was a story he had never heard. "Mr. Sullivan," Peterson continued, "you've built an impressive empire. But your mother, she built something even more valuable. She built you." Michael observed Martha, now animatedly conversing with a saleswoman about the car's safety features. When was the last time he had seen her so alive, so engaged? "Mr. Peterson, about the Ferrari outside, do you think you can help me sell it? I don't think it's the right car for Boston." Peterson smiled. "I'm sure we can work that out. Do you have something specific in mind to replace it?" Michael looked at his mother again. "Yes, something suitable for taking my mother to lunch regularly, and perhaps for small weekend trips." 3 months later, Martha Sullivan parked her new silver Lexus ES at the entrance of Sullivan Tech's office in Boston. It was a modern, medium-sized building, very different from the imposing headquarters in Manhattan, but equally elegant. "Mrs. Sullivan, welcome." The receptionist smiled warmly. "Mr. Sullivan is waiting for you in the conference room. Please, follow me." Martha followed the young woman through the bright corridors, decorated with photographs of old and modern Boston. Many employees greeted her by name as she passed. In recent weeks, she had become a familiar presence in the office. In the conference room, Michael was meeting with a dozen executives. When Martha entered, everyone stood up. "Mom, right on time," smiled Michael, approaching to kiss her on the cheek. "Everyone, this is Martha Sullivan, our new Director of Social Responsibility." Martha was still surprised by her new title. When Michael had opened the Boston office of Sullivan Tech 3 months ago, he had invited her to lead the company's new Social Responsibility division, focusing especially on programs for the elderly and technological education. "Good morning, everyone," Martha greeted the group. "I have news about our partnership with the Massachusetts Retirees Association." As Martha confidently presented her report, Michael observed her with pride. The incident at the dealership had triggered changes that neither of them could have predicted. Richard Peterson had kept his promise. Not only had Martha received her Lexus with a substantial discount, but the training program she had developed, Respect Has No Age, had been implemented in all 8 dealerships of the Peterson Group. Brad Thompson had been fired, but surprisingly, after a long conversation with Martha, Peterson had offered him a second chance. He could return after completing the training program and performing 200 hours of volunteer work at a senior center. The red Ferrari had been sold, and Michael had used part of the money to open the Boston office. allowing him to divide his time between New York and his hometown. He had also bought a comfortable Tesla Model S for himself, much less flashy than a Ferrari, but perfect for the weekend trips he now regularly took with his mother. Martha had moved to a larger and safer apartment, a few blocks from the new office. It was still modest by Michael's standards, but it was what she wanted. "Too much luxury would make me uncomfortable, son," she had explained. "I need to live my way." After the meeting, Michael and Martha went out to lunch at the small Italian restaurant that had become their favorite. "How are you feeling, Mom?" Michael asked as they walked. The beginning of spring brought the first flowers to Boston's parks. "Rejuvenated," Martha replied with a smile. "And I never thought that at 72 I would start a new career. The young people on the team are so patient with me when I have difficulties with technology. They adore you. Dana told me your intergenerational mentoring program is transforming the work environment." Martha blushed slightly at the compliment. "Something I've always believed as a teacher. We all have something to teach and something to learn, regardless of age." At the restaurant, they were greeted as frequent customers. While waiting for the food, Michael observed his mother. She seemed younger, more vibrant. The wrinkles were still there, but her eyes shone with renewed purpose. "You know what's strange, Michael?" Martha said, stirring her iced tea. "Sue? If Brad Thompson hadn't treated me so badly that day, none of this would have happened." Michael reflected on this. Sometimes, the worst experiences lead us to the best places. "Speaking of which," Martha continued, "I received an email from Brad yesterday. He completed his training and his volunteer hours. Richard is considering rehiring him for the Providence dealership. And how do you feel about that?" Martha thought for a moment. Everyone deserves a second chance. He learned something valuable, and so did I. "What did you learn, Mom?" "That it's never too late to start over, and that," she hesitated, her eyes watering slightly, "that I have a wonderful son who, despite all his responsibilities, still has time for his old mother." Michael held her hand across the table. "I'm the one who learned, Mom. I learned that no matter how successful I am, how much money I make, or how many companies I run, in the end, what matters are the people we love and how we treat them." Outside, Boston's spring bloomed in vibrant colors. Inside the small Italian restaurant, mother and son shared a simple meal, building bridges over the lost years and planning many Tuesday lunches ahead. Meanwhile, in the luxury motors parking lot, Richard Peterson personally hung a sign at the entrance. "Here, respect has no age. In memory of John Sullivan, 1940-2005.